It's your boy, Matt Silverman here.
And your girl, Coley B.
Yeah, Coley B. Ooh, that's that sounds like you should be on a top 40 radio station.
Whatever the opposite of, or whatever the female version of B-boy is. I guess that's what's Coley B.
Coley B. Yes. That is your hip hop name.
Forever.
My name is Maddie B, and I'm here with Coley B, and we are hosting as always every week, every Friday. We're here to enter the chat with you and talk about video games.
You forgot to say the most important thing on planet Earth.
Oh, you just said it.
Oh,
I think you completed the circle.
I was
going to
say, you were going to say the most important thing on Earth, and I'd be like, except for B-boy names.
Which is more important? We will never.
I know, you really got to think it over.
That's a different episode. We need to explore that further. But today, I think we're all playing some good stuff, but we wanted to actually dig into what we have left on the table.
Yeah.
Our regrets. And as we have discussed at length on this very program, this art form that we talk about and get excited about and go in depth on is just different. It is different from any other art form because the investment, the time investment, the monetary investment, the emotional investment in completing whatever that means in 2021, completion of, and that to me that means like getting what you want out of a game, or rolling credits, or finishing the story, or it could also mean collecting every single item, getting every single trophy or achievement, whatever that means to you. There's 1,000 different meanings for I finished this game, I got what I came for, and wasn't that great and worthwhile. However, so many are left unfinished. And why is that? What goes wrong?
I think one thing could be there's just too many fucking games.
Yes.
I just thought I'd put that out there.
Yeah. I mean, amen. The anxiety around I like this game and that there is motivation to complete it or do more of it, but oh my God, this other thing is now here and I want to experience it, or I want to be part of the conversation now. That's the other thing too. It's too many games, and also the nowness of any fandom culture. It's almost like, the new Star Wars movie comes out and you're like, I'll see it in 6 months. Like, no, you can't, because you can't use the internet then for 6 months. Like, you must participate, and we know that there are problems with that mentality. I'm not saying it's good or bad, but it certainly is. So today we are here to discuss games that we have not finished, and that might be an awesome thing, or that might be a bummer of a thing. And I'm eager to talk about it. And we're also excited to talk about games that you have not finished and why. Lots of chatter and discussion in our Discord server, which you can join by going to the link in the description of this podcast. But before we begin, any other goddamn, I was going to say meta thoughts about finishing, completion of games, or what this art form, what does finishing even mean in this crazy art form?
That's a really good question, but maybe it's a question we should ask after you play the music.
Oh my God, I almost committed a crime. Here we go. Thank God.
I just didn't feel right. I was like, I can't go on.
No, you're absolutely correct.
Well, perhaps before either of us go digging into the topic of games that we have not finished and our regrets, perhaps we should talk about some of the conversation we had in the Discord with our members, our community, because I thought that they had some pretty great shit to say.
So much good stuff in here. Why don't we go take it down the list? Start up at the top here if you're in there.
All right, I am. So I laughed at my own comment. I can feel the regret welling up already. I love when I make myself laugh. It's great. So, okay. So one thing that we got right off the bat was Chris G saying one that definitely goes into the thought I'd like but didn't pile for me is Metroid Other M. I just didn't like anything about the game. However, after recently going through Samus Returns and Dread, I've been thinking of giving it another shot. Maybe I'll like it more, or maybe my initial reaction will be unchanged. And I gotta say that I know so well, and he didn't go too far into it, but I know so well, like, what it's like to be really excited for a game, and then the game comes out, and you're like, oh, that's the worst feeling.
Yeah.
And I'm actually having it about Fatal Frame Maiden of Blackwater right now. So
you did. You alluded to that. And
it's quite fresh. Yes, unfortunately. It's
because you were so hyped. You were so excited.
Yeah, it's just hard when you get that excited about a release or you just love a series. But, yeah, it happens.
I mean, Chris is certainly not alone in his disappointment with Metroid Other M. It is universally understood as the worst Metroid game, and I'm wondering, first of all, like, what's your experience with the Metroid series, and did you ever pick up Dread, or are you going to? Are you waiting?
We were going to. Patrick was excited about it. My husband, for listeners who don't know who that is, and we just never got around to it. And the problem, of course, is that it's a deluge of games at all times. So if you miss a game's window, it almost feels like it's so easy for it to just go flying into your rearview mirror and then you never see it again. So I don't know. Maybe it'll be one of those, or maybe we'll pick it up in 6 months.
I was going to say, like, hey, there's nothing grabbing my eye in 6 months, and then that's a great time. I just briefly, like, I was mentioning how dead endy and stuck I was, and I do want to just update the record and say that, like, I was just foolishly, you know how games are where it's like, duh, I just didn't do this one thing, and then once I did that one thing, it unlocked the next power up, and then it was like, ba-bam, 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 next thing, next room, next world, next gun, next. It was this avalanche of like, okay, I was missing the key. Now this game is rocking again. It was rocking in the beginning, really got stuck, and now it's rocking again. And I am rocketing towards the end of it, and I'm excited about that. So Dread is great. I think I mentioned this in the Discord. I definitely played Other M. I have no memory of it. I literally have no memory of this game. I do not remember disliking it, but I also do not remember the game, which clearly does not bode well for its goodness.
Yeah. To me, if I don't remember a game or a movie or whatever, it means it was average. Not terrible and not great. Just right in the middle.
You'd remember a terrible, awful game. But I think, and we're going to get into this today, in Chris's case, like, I don't no regrets about bailing on a shitty game. It's just a bummer that you spent the money and you spent the time on a frame. This wasn't some some indie game that looks promising. This is a $60 franchise,
game, my friend.
$60 game from Nintendo, and you got. So that is a bummer.
Yeah, it is.
Megalith says Skyrim, and I'm actually eager to talk about this briefly as well. Skyrim. Megalith says, I've played quite a lot of it, actually, but very little of the actual story. And while I played, and what little I played of the story, I clicked through so fast I basically don't remember it because I was too anxious to go explore. I mean, that is the beauty of Skyrim. That is classic Skyrim. Before I go on, you have never mentioned Elder Scrolls or Skyrim or Oblivion in any of our conversations on and off mic. Is this franchise... Does this connect to you at all? Have you ever played it?
It's just not of interest to me. I mean, I'm always been aware of when people have been very obsessively playing those games and loving them and praising them. I never wanted to play any of them.
What is it about it that, because I don't know, Breath of the Wild is a weird thing. So it's like, of course you're going to play Breath of the Wild as a Zelda fan, but are you not an open world kind of? Does that not get you excited?
Not usually, to be honest. Like, I mean, if you were to say, hey, is there one game type genre wise that like it just really hits for you all the time. It would be hard for me to name one. But that said, if I think about open world stuff, and I think about the games I've loved, I really haven't gravitated to a lot of open world. And I think like with Breath of the Wild, it was just, it was uniquely Zelda flavored. So maybe that made it work for me.
Mm-hmm.
But then I started thinking, and this is very interesting, right? Like I was recently replaying, oh man, the name is escaping me, but it's a remade Zelda that was only on the Game Boy. Does that ring a bell to you?
Oh, yeah.
The Windfish.
Yeah. Why am I blanking?
Because I am too. Maybe it's
Jesus Lord.
It's ADHD. Yeah. But anyway,
I was also just getting elderly too.
Yeah, really. I was replaying it and I was thinking to myself, this, the model that this is built on is that first Zelda I love so much. And actually that's technically an open world game because you don't know where things are and you're basically like exploring the overworld. Like, I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, you are correct. It's Link's Awakening. Sorry that we both had a mental breakdown there. And just, hello, The Legend of Zelda for NES is arguably one of the first truly open world games, meaning like there really is no story in that game, and there's no instruction, there's no direction, there's no signposting at all. It is literally, here's a sword, good luck to you.
Right.
And that's 1980, what, 3, 5, whatever.
It makes me pause and think though, like, what would a game like that be like today? Like it would be really cool to have a game where literally you're handed a sword and given no instruction. But like another part of me is like, are we now at a point in gaming history where like we would be pissed that we weren't being explained to versus then where we were like, oh, okay, well, I guess I'll go look around.
If it's fresh and there's so much to do, that is all really good and interesting and exciting and exploratory. And, the Breath of the Wild did this. And if you think about it a little bit, Breath of the Wild was more like NES Zelda than other more linear Zelda games. And most linear Zelda games are like, level 1, do level 1, and then you unlock the next thing, and then you go to the next thing, and you go to the next thing. And NES is like that too, but like, and you know this way better than I, that I feel like the NES Zelda, there is so much other stuff to just wander around and do. Just like, well, I have a candle, I guess I'll just burn every tree to see where the secret entrances are. That felt akin to Breath of the Wild in a way that other beloved Zelda games. I mean, Wind Waker, you could sail anywhere. I don't know. I'm rambling here. I don't know what my point is.
No, you're not at all. I mean, I'm following your train of thought. Like, I think that, it's interesting, right? To like pause for a second there and go, well, what counts as open world? But I guess to pull it back to Skyrim, I was never interested in like the worlds. Like the time periods and the settings of the worlds were just not interesting to me. Like I was a person who, when everyone was flipping out over Game of Thrones, I was like, okay, like I never wanted to watch that show because those time periods are not like,
that's so interesting,
worlds I want to play in. Yeah. But like if you dropped me into, I don't know, like I love cyberpunk worlds. Open worlds are fine with me in a cyberpunk setting. Although I didn't play Cyberpunk. Was it 2077? I didn't play it.
If Cyberpunk 2077 had delivered and had a smooth launch and delivered the ultimate open world cyberpunk game that everyone hoped it would be, would that have been your jam, or was there something that wasn't pulling you in because you did not play it, right?
No, I didn't. I don't. Honestly, I'm not sure. Like, it's funny because when you first said it, I was like, well, I think I'm a person who sometimes really enjoys the narrative structure. And so I don't really just want to go play in a sandbox. But then I realized that one of my favorite games of all time is, in fact, a sandbox, technically. I mean, it's not what we think of as an open world or a sandbox today, but like it was in the time period, I think.
And I mean, if you're talking about NES Legend of Zelda, then yeah, I do think so. It's interesting to me, knowing you and knowing your tastes. It is interesting to me why open world sandbox. Well, okay, I fully understand the setting thing because it's interesting, like medieval fantasy, even when it borders on like, here's one of these again, I'm still kind of like, yeah, okay, I'm in. Like, you know what I mean? Like I am a sucker for that setting. And conversely to you, I loved the Witcher games. I played all 3 Witcher games, loved all 3 of them, even though the first 2 will certainly show their age. And I trusted CD Projekt Red to make a great game, and zero interest in Cyberpunk because of the setting almost exclusively. I think Cyberpunk is a very cool setting. I think it has a lot of sci-fi lessons to teach us in the especially in the world we are inhabiting today. The late stage capitalism parable of our time. And I just could not get into the idea of Cyberpunk 27. And then it came out, and I was like, you know what? I will play this one day because it's a CD Projekt Red game. And then it came out, and it was buggy, and then all the crunch stuff, and I was like, oh no, I don't. Yeah, this is a total skip for me. Yeah. But it was so it's. I'm almost the converse of you, of like medieval fantasy. I don't care. Mediocre game, I'll still play it. For you, that setting has no appeal. But let me ask you this about Skyrim and Elder Scrolls in general. One of its strengths, which Megalith explains here, is like you don't have to do the main story at all. You can create a character, and then you start the opening scene, and some shit goes down, and then I'm going to be a blacksmith in the woods because that's what I want to do, or I'm going to join the Thieves Guild and sneak around and kill some dudes and be a stealth game. Like, you do you. That's the sandbox stuff. And if that doesn't appeal to you, well, I'm also here to tell you, I think the story in Skyrim is pretty cool if you can get past the like you're the chosen one to save the world kind of thing, which is 98% of games, fortunately or unfortunately. If you can swallow that pill, I thought the story of Skyrim and the lore that envelops it is very good, especially because the lore hole goes very deep into connected back to previous games, and you could spend 100 hours reading the wiki, the Elder Scrolls wiki, also as you're doing the story. And so my question there is, you still nothing? Like, you don't want to, like, if I told you, hey, there's a great story there, would you still be uninterested?
Probably, because if I don't like the trappings of the story, I don't think I'm going to want to spend the long period of time there.
Totally.
And if I pause and think about it, I'm like, okay, well, what setting would do it for me? And like the thing that comes to mind is actually, I'm not sure if it's open world or not, but there's a game. I think it's Ghost Whisper Tokyo. Do you know that game?
Oh, Ghostwire Tokyo, right?
Ghostwire, thank you. Like, I saw that and I was like, oh my God, that is totally a Colette ass game.
Is it an open world adventure-y sandboxy game, or is it a narrative game, and maybe both? Do you know? It
might be both. I don't think someone has like narrowed it down, but I mean, it definitely looks like, I don't know that it's sandboxy. Actually, now that I pause to look at it, but I mean, it could be, it's definitely you're going to have Tokyo to explore for sure.
Lots of hype around that one.
When anyway, is that coming out, by the way? The only point of me bringing it up is to say, let's just say that setting was an open world. Oh my God. Like, you could not stop me. Like,
totally.
Yeah. I would claw my way like through a deep crowd to get to that one.
But this gets at what games are all about, because it's like, put on a movie and maybe the setting, maybe I don't know about or care about the setting, but like if I'm engaged with the characters in the story, like I'm watching the movie all the way through. you got to live in that world. So if you're not ready to live in a medieval fantasy world and that's not your jam, then you ain't spending 200 hours in that world. You're absolutely
like
you're right. And I just never thought of it that way.
Yeah, no, I could see how. It's just, it's interesting. Like, there have definitely been times with games like, Skyrim and other open world games where I've been like, these are clearly really great games. Like, I wish I wanted to play them.
Yeah.
No?
Maybe we'll hit on others that tick that box too. Briefly, and I'm eager to talk about this, perhaps, in the future. I enjoyed and loved Skyrim on PC, and I played Oblivion, the previous entry, and loved that game to death, and completed the story. Unlike Megalith, did a lot of open world sandboxy stuff because I love that stuff, but also saw the story through to the end and completed and rolled credits on Skyrim back in 2011, or when it came out in 2011, and so probably early 2012, however many hours I spent in this game, and was a satisfied customer. And now 10 years later, I was just wandering around the house yesterday, and I'm like, I think, what if I played Skyrim and it's on Switch and it looks and runs amazing on Switch, like really, really solid. It's a 10-year-old game, and it's Bethesda, which is now Microsoft, and it's been ported to every system. So it's like, a Switch port is a risky proposition, but like some Switch ports are amazing, and this is one of them. And I've been like, what if I could I could just dip in and out of Skyrim and just do what Megalith did of like not do the story, just fuck around in Skyrim on the couch or in bed whenever I want. I was like, oh, this is going to be my next game. And then they recently announced the anniversary edition of Skyrim, which is the 10-year anniversary for PC and the fatter consoles, of course. Mm-hmm. And in a nutshell, what it is like it's the special edition of Skyrim with a bit of graphical improvement, so it's a bit fancier. But what it has is it has all the DLC. Oh, that was all the other thing. Not only is it Skyrim on a Switch, but it's all 3 DLCs, which I did not play when I first played it on PC. So it's like
nice.
It's every piece of Skyrim all together in my hands, and that was really appealing. And then they're like, guess what, everyone? Anniversary edition, all the DLC, remastered graphics, plus Creation Club, which is hand selected by Bethesda, like the best mods from the PC community baked in, and you can just toggle them on and off. Because I told myself, I'm like, I am not fucking around with mods. I'm too old for that. I just want to turn it on and play. And this thing has it has additional content and quests and whatever, but it has these mods where it's like, boom, turn on survival mode, which is like, hey, you got to wear warm clothes up on the mountain or you'll freeze. Hey, you're starting to get hungry. You need to eat food. Hey, you need to build a campfire. Hey, you need to go to sleep. And that is how I want to play Skyrim. And that's how I like role played these games, and also installed PC mods to force me to do those mechanics. And now it's baked into the anniversary edition, which is not going to be on Switch, which means I'm 93% confident when I return to Skyrim, I'm going to do it in the ultimate anniversary 10-year PC, crank up the graphics, turn on the mods, and like November and December for me I might be going back to Tamriel.
Hey, you know what? I think that there's nothing more valuable than a game world that you miss and want to go back and visit. I think that's really cool. I mean, if meta, verse goes in the direction that fucking Zuck wants to bring it in, then, we could be experiencing those worlds like in a very IRL way in the future. It's like, I'm going to go, peace out in Hyrule for a little while. But if you need me, I'll be there,
A Ready Player One way where everyone is, everyone you've ever known and met in fiction is there. But I was about to say that, like, you and I have discussed games that we do or want to return to. Like we're doing opposite shows, right? It's games we abandoned and may never come back to, and other games where like this was so wonderful and important and great, or like, hey, I would be interested to see how well Skyrim holds up with it through a deep analysis, like another 10 to 30 to 50 hours. Like, hey, am I still going to have fun with this 10-year-old game?
Mm-hmm.
I that's something I don't typically do, and I'm eager to do it now. So
yeah,
I shall report in.
No, definitely. Yes, you should report back.
More from the Discord, and then we shall proceed with our own picks here.
Mm-hmm. Let's see. Total Chaos says every Elder Scrolls or Fallout is like 95% totally complete, and I never will, to be honest. I don't really think there's anything the matter with that. Like, I know there are completionists, and I know the 100% is like fulfilling to some people, but I honestly never really think about getting that myself. Or have you ever been a person who's been like, oh man, I got to get the 100%?
No, I'm really not, especially when it's very, not silly, but like very collecty, like the moons in Mario Odyssey or the Koroks in Breath of the Wild. Like, I get it, but it just ticking those boxes does not appeal to me. Now, if there's like an awesome quest, or like Tarrytown in Breath of the Wild, it's like,
right,
you don't have to do any of that shit. But like, I gotta build this town because it's so fun and cool, and it's a grind, and it's characters, and the houses go up, and that I must do. Collecting 300 seeds, no way.
Right. Yeah,
that's the line.
Yeah, when I played through Breath of the Wild, like, I found some stuff, and I remember being like, I could go back and like scrape every corner of this game. And I think for some people, like, that could be a really rewarding feeling.
Yes.
Yes. Like, especially if you love the world. But for me personally, that's just never been, like, I think maybe if it was tied to story somehow, maybe that might matter more to me, I guess. But
or if there was a really fantastic reward. And for me, it's more like live service games or ongoing games or MMOs of like, if I collect all 300 of these things, then I will get the most kick-ass cape or weapon or sword that I will then use or display or be proud of as I continue to play this game. But like, once you beat Ganon, like there's nothing more to do in the storyline of this game. So
you can just fuck around in the world if you want.
Yes.
But what? As you were saying that, I remembered there was one game that I did 100%. And so I'm like, ooh, this is the thing that motivated me. I 100%ed Earth Defense Force for the 360 because the promise of doing that was that if you got 100% completion, that the game would unlock what it called the genocide gun. And the power of the genocide gun was that it would blow up a city block. And I was like, that is enough reason for me to 100% this game. So I did.
Did it pay off? Did you get this gun, and was it
awesome? Like,
great.
Like, I felt like a little kid that is like set up like, an explosive and like wanted to watch the whole thing fall. But like, honestly, you've spent the entire game shooting giant fucking bugs, and like just the ability to just, no strategy, just blasts. It was incredibly fun.
You play through the game again from the beginning. Is it like a new game plus, but now with this amazing gun, and you just blast through it in 5 minutes?
Yeah, exactly. Like, I mean, I don't think it formally was called New Game Plus, but yeah, you could take your, take your save and then go replay it from the beginning if you wanted to. I didn't end up doing that. It was, to be honest, it was more like got the gun. We're like, yes, take photos of the TV screen that says, genocide gun unlocked, and then like, play with it for like an hour and then be like, I did it. And then that's it. That for me anyway, that was it.
Print the photos at CVS, frame the photos, and then we're good.
Yeah. But I mean, I had a blast. So it's like, like if it's a situation where, you will have an absolute blast doing that thing, like, yeah, heck yeah, 100% it. Why not?
That's
but I don't think that it's necessarily something that everybody wants.
Pedro Cortez says Dark Souls and Bloodborne are big ones for me. I really liked the more I really liked them, I think, more considered timing and animation based combat. I love the worlds that were built, but the lack of any sort of map makes it nearly impossible for me to enjoy myself while playing. I really relate. I wish I could experience and enjoy the Sekiros and the Dark Soulses of the world.
Right.
I know that I will just be frustrated.
Yeah.
Unfortunately. I don't even touch them.
And why? It's like, why? I don't want to do that.
Yeah. Yeah. I typically do not play games to get good. I play games to enjoy myself, as Pedro is explaining. Like he cannot get the enjoyment because it's just too tedious or hard or repetitive. But I respect people who are like, yeah, no, I can. I did this boss rush 30 times before I got it. I get it.
Yeah. It's just different for everybody, I guess.
What is this? Seto Chaos says, I never finished Driver on PS1 because the tutorial was too hard. Dude, I don't know this game. Do you know?
I've heard of it. I've never played it, but I will say that there have been a few tutorials that I've been like, fuck this shit, and just turned off the game. Like, when they're not done well, and like sometimes they're really not. Like, I've had those games, so I feel that.
Yep.
I feel that big time. I just realized that I don't know if it's Pyrostar or Puristar, so hopefully she'll correct me. But Demon Souls remake, have yet to finish it because it's hard and I can only play chunks at a time. Yeah, totally get that. Like, and I sometimes I like the feeling of a game that like you kind of scrape away at over a long period of time too.
It's a really, she makes a great point about sort of life stage or place in your life of like, hey, you're an adult, you've got a family, you've got a busy job, like. Some of these games require hours and hours of persistence, and bouncing in and out of a Demon Souls probably is not. I don't know. Maybe or it's not the way it's meant to be played, or it's not a conducive way to get good. And if you're not getting good, then you're not going to have a fun time. Are some games incompatible with your lifestyle?
Right.
And you want to love them. And you think they're rad, but you just can't do it. That's interesting.
Yeah, definitely. I definitely thought about that. And then I thought it was super interesting that Alex said, I'm a huge Metal Gear fan, never finished Metal Gear Solid 5. This was mainly due to the huge emphasis on base building, something I generally dislike and avoid in most games if I can. While the other elements I loved about the Metal Gear series were still there. Stealthy gameplay, zany story, etc. There was such an emphasis on collecting resources and recruiting soldiers for Mother Base that it just really turned me off the game altogether. Man, this one really resonated with me because I am a person who if I'm playing a game and there's a section that's like, let's drive a car, I'm like, fucking shit. Like I really don't want to drive a car. I don't like car games. So like, if you're like, we're going to operate this car now, like I get pissed. And I remember another one that really pissed me off, and thank God you could just navigate around the whole thing and avoid it, was Blitzball in Final Fantasy X. What an abysmal pile of shit. Like, it's such a good idea, but it just doesn't. Anyway, I'm a person who, when you get the optional games in Final Fantasy main titles, I'm like, leave me alone. And like, I just keep going. Like the card games, the sports games, whatever. But I'm just like, can't deal. It's like if you love a franchise and something in there goes in there and you're just like, bleh.
Yeah, I don't trust like a Square Enix JRPG type game to get a mini to add a great mini game in the middle of their.
They're not really good at it.
No, that you. So when you say that, I've never played 10. I'm not shocked at all, and very happy to hear that you can skip it or get around it, because that would be super annoying. And then you also, then on the flip side of that, you have The Witcher 3, which everyone jokes. The meme is, hey, Geralt's got to save the world, but like, fuck it, let's play cards. And the card game Gwent inside Witcher 3 is a phenomenal card game built into this amazing award-winning RPG. And then Gwent, the card game, was so popular in the game that they spun it out into an even more complex, almost Magic the Gathering style collectible card game on PC. I think it's on mobile now too. I've never actually played the separated version. But an example of a fantastic I don't know. Mini game is a strange thing. It's funny because Alex is. I've never played Metal Gear ever. It's a huge blind spot for me. Nothing really appeals to me. Like nothing about it draws me in. Combined with like, I don't know if these games don't appear like they will have aged incredibly well. But I'm speaking completely ignorantly about that. However, Alex's criticism of like, oh, this one has base building. Doesn't that suck? I'm like, oh, hey, okay, I'll take a look now because base building is
you like base building
jam. Love it. I love games about base that are fully base building, and I love games that are like, let's go on this adventure and save the world, but you got to set up the base to get your resources. I'm like, yeah, baby, give it to me. So that's really funny to me.
I love it. That's good stuff. Let's see. I'm going to skip on to Docky talking about Undertale because it's interesting. Undertale is one I really wanted to play through, especially because the fan base is very effusive. I was playing Pacifist because that was the thing people spoke most highly of. If you play Pacifist, you never get any upgrades, so every battle chips away at your health. Unfortunately, I really struggled with the controls. Combat is based around playing a bullet hell dodging game in a tiny box that uses an eighth of the screen. I became lost and faced dozens of battles, quickly exhausting the finite health items. I then struggled on a mini boss for an hour and gave up. I played for 7 hours but didn't get past midway. I hoped the game's success would later be updated to allow accessibility options such as play speed. Unfortunately, the developer seems opposed to that type of thing. Worse yet, I have had some negative interactions with fans when I posted online saying I was struggling. People replied to me with memes from the game or told to just watch it on YouTube, but this didn't interest me at all. I came away from the experience pretty sour. I appreciated that Docky took a lot of time to explain a lot of the different reasons around this because for me, like right off the bat, like I was like, oh yeah, God, like bad controls or like, in this situation, just controls that clearly didn't consider the accessibility that much, like that can turn me off a game really fast. But then it's a kind of another thing. Totally, I think if a game has a big, strong fan base and, you ask for help in that fan base and people are just the opposite of supportive. Yeah, like that would really leave me pretty salty too, honestly.
It's a real shame because that game is tremendous and the fan community, as Docky says, is so passionate and effusive, but I have heard the same thing, that there is some toxicity or like, you don't get it, so get out of here kind of vibe going on to it, this very wholesome or special game that the fandom has morphed into other things. And I have played Undertale and completed it and really, really loved it. And I remember some of the bullet. I would equally be as bad and frustrated at a bullet hell situation. And so somehow I beat it. And that's not saying, oh, I'm so great. It's like, well, I must have overcame these challenges. And I think what Docky is saying is essentially he chose the hardest of the hard modes, which is Pacifist Run, where you, like he said, you do not acquire any upgrades. So when you arrive at these insane levels toward the middle end of the game, it must be a huge brick wall.
I can only imagine. Yeah. I mean,
did you play Undertale?
I did, and I did complete it, but I will say that I could see exactly how the little fighting thing that takes up an eighth of the screen, as he was saying, like, yeah, like I could totally see that could not be great depending on the user. So yeah, It's interesting. But since I'm talking about some lovely things Docky said, I'm going to finish up with one other thing that was said because I loved it. Docky said, I finish 2% of the games I buy, but I've made my peace with quitting whenever I like. There are plenty of games I really love, but I've never seen the back half. Quitting is giving the gift of time to yourself. Never regret choosing your mental health and freedom to do other things. Games are often an escape until something better comes along, so be grateful that you had something else. I don't completely agree with all of that because for me personally, even though there have been times in my life where games have been an escape, there have also been many times for me where I'm playing a game not until something better comes along, but because I couldn't wait to play this game and go into that world and hear that story. So for me, it's a little different on that point. But I loved the idea of kind of being like, I don't have to finish this if I'm not enjoying it. Or maybe you were enjoying it a lot and nothing really went wrong. You just suddenly were like, I don't know, I'm kind of not enjoying it anymore. It's like, yeah, we're grown ass adults. Like if you spent $20 or $30 or $60 and you're not feeling it, it's pretty nice to be able to be like, okay, that's fine. I got out of it whatever I wanted to get out of it. I mean, of course, there's times when you're disappointed, because you wanted to like it more. But I really feel this because there have been games that I've played for a really long time or games I've played half. And then I've been like, you know what? I think I'm done. And that's good. That's fine. There's nothing wrong with that.
Of course. Fully agree with you and with Daki, of course. And I think it's very well said. The part that gives me a little anxiety is the wrong word, but the sort of like maybe it's FOMO a little bit is like, why is my mind wandering away from this game? Why am I not feeling this game? And there's always a part of me that's like, especially with a game that I like or was excited for. It's like, love the world, love the characters, love the gameplay, having fun. Oh, now I'm drifting away. Why is that happening? And it's hard for me, and I presume many people, to judge, you know what? If I just stick it out and get through this section or this area, maybe it will grab me again. And if I give up now, I'm going to miss out on what this game is. Hey, Metroid Dread is a perfect example.
Really?
It's a Metroid game, and it's an intent. Like, I really was never intending to give up on it, but like I said, I hit hour 6-ish, and I'm like, I am just wandering around this map back and forth. I am not having fun. I'm very frustrated. This sucks. But if I did not keep going, I wouldn't have overcome that tiny little hurdle. And now it kicks ass. And I agree with the majority I have now joined the club of the majority of the sentiment around this game, which says, oh yeah, Metroid's back, and this might be the best Metroid game ever. If I had quit, I would not have gotten there. And I have very similar regrets about, as we've discussed, Hades. Got bounced off of Hades, did exactly what Daki sort of expressed, of like just not feeling it, wanted that time back for other things, and I am missing. I am missing out on that game. It is a gap, and we can talk about another time. It is on the short list to return to. I will go back to it.
Yeah,
but I could not. For some reason, I couldn't enjoy the game of the year on everyone else's list. And I'm not trying to say like I have to like everything everyone else likes, but I loved Hades. I loved everything about this game. I love roguelikes and roguelites and roguelikes. Love it. So why am I not loving? Well, what's going? What's not clicking here? Is it a timing thing? Is it a lifestyle thing? Whatever.
Yeah, I get it. I mean, it's, how could that not frustrate you? Like a part of you has got to be like, but everyone else loves this. Why not me?
And not about, I need to be like other people, but it's more like, I know that I love this. I am loving this. I will love this. I just don't love it at this moment. And there's 20 other games I want to play, as you said earlier.
Yep. And that's not gonna.
In a movie, if you're not loving the C plot, that's 5 minutes of screen time, and then you're back to the action. And so it's easier in other media to overcome the like, I didn't love that middle part, but man, the rest of that movie was so great. Well, the middle part of Skyrim is 40 hours long. So are you gonna muscle through? You know what?
Yeah.
Seriously, that's
Probably not.
And so this speaks to game design of like, all right, you've made an extraordinary game, and 50% of people are not going to stand for that middle part, and all the beautiful work you put into that final battle will never get seen by people who, if it's never seen by people who think your game sucks, see you later. It's not for you. But if it's never going to get seen by people who love your game and just couldn't get through it, that's a bummer. It feels sad. It feels like an artistic tragedy to me as someone who aspires to create things and wants people to like things. I don't know.
I get it. But I mean, that's the thing, right? It's like, I get that on one level. But on another level, it's like, I feel like the people that walk away from your game, for whatever their reason, maybe it didn't click with them, or maybe, they, enjoyed a part of it, but then got to a point where they were like, you know what, I've enjoyed it up to this point and I'm not enjoying it anymore. So I'm going to walk away. Like, of course you want them to see the whole body of your work, but like for a lot of people who play games, that might be like what they got the most enjoyment out of, the first, 5 hours or whatever. And so it's like, it's funny. It's like, you can't dictate the way people consume art.
No. But it's such a challenge to design in a way that will satisfy someone.
Right.
I'm thinking about this with Spiritfarer, and I know you'll agree. Still enjoying it and making my way through. There's always something to do, and every time there's something to do, I'm enjoying doing it, and it leads to something new. I can't think of another game that's like, and then this, 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 and it never slows down in its novelty and charm. Because most games, you get to a middle point where you're like, all right, I've unlocked all the things. Now I'm just doing all the things. And that's, I think, where people drop off. You either love doing those things and you could do them forever.
Or you don't.
And you're like, I can't keep going. I can't keep wandering or grinding or collecting. And Spiritfarer is designed in a genius way to overcome that. And I'm like, I thought this game was going to be like 10 hours. No. But I'm like clocking it and I'm like looking at it being like, I'm barely anywhere and it is still cooking. And it's so, I'm amazed by it.
That's so awesome. It's beautiful. I'm really glad that you ended up connecting with it, because I thought it was a really rare, wonderful experience,
Truly.
But I think the only other person that wanted to say something was Honeybro, and he was like, the Valkyria Chronicles games. I've started all of them. I like the concept of tactical anime war game, but I lose interest midway because the maps get tedious. Maps start at 15 minutes each and turn into an hour apiece. That was really interesting to me, because it made me think about like our attention span, especially right now. And that, like, if you think about like our attention span for games where you like, RPGs where you had to grind and like fight every 5 to 6 steps, like basically that was okay with us then, but now it's like intolerable because game design has improved. And it's like, how long do I want to spend in a skirmish? Well, 15 minutes is cool. 20 minutes maybe, but like, I don't want to be in a skirmish for an hour. I'm sorry. Like, that's not interesting to me. But it might be the
strategy. Is the strategy or the tactical complexity building and increasing consistently? Or
I don't know. I can't say for that. But that's a good point. Like, could it get to a point where it's really interesting to be there for an hour?
Yeah. The complexity of strategy games like Civilization, one game of Civilization could take, 20 hours or whatever. But
sure.
It is this balloon that keeps growing, and that's what's great about it. And perhaps that's not happening with Valkyria Chronicles, which I've seen, and I don't think I've dabbled in any of them. Man, I don't know that it's 1-to-1, but I do still have regrets about dropping off of Fire Emblem Three Houses. Loved it.
Yeah.
Love that game. I thought it was an extraordinary game, and then hit a particular battle similar to what Honey Bro was saying that went on too long, and or every strategy I tried failed like 5 times in a row, and I was like, oh, do I want to go back to and do it again? I don't think I do. And then I never came back, and shame.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's tough. It's, the more we talk about it, the more I think, there's a rhythm. There's a rhythm to the way that the games play out, and it's kind of trying to find the people who kind of their rhythm of gaming matches, like I felt like when I was playing Hades that like I was getting like the deepest itch scratched. I was like, yeah, this is good. And that's what I used to go to Diablo for, honestly, So it's nice to know that there's other games that, will provide such a thing, because I kind of am at a point where I don't want to play Diablo anymore, which is really sad and probably could be the topic of a whole episode, but
4 got delayed just recently. Is that right?
I think so.
Yeah. You said it on a previous episode, the phrase forward momentum, which can be part of it can have a lot of dimensions, but I think that summarizes what you're saying of like, it keeps scratching the itch and building and expanding in a way that never slows down, never gets boring, never gets tired. And sometimes that is doing the same loop over and over again. I will never not love fighting the same monster over and over again in Monster Hunter, because I'm very eager to get the parts to make the next armor. Like that loop, that's all that game is, and it's great.
That's right. Yeah.
But it's not for everyone.
Right. Yeah.
What's on your list? What's at the top of your I mean, and we'll talk about it, but like, are these regrets? Are these just good riddance? What are you thinking about?
Well, I started thinking about story-driven games, and I was like, that's my jam, right? And I was like, okay, let me think about like, the RPGs that held me, on there like long enough to complete, a detailed story. And I was like, okay, well, thought about that a little bit, and then I was like, okay, what, like, there's a lot of RPGs, right? Like when I was younger and I fell in love with RPGs, they were like my favorite thing. I definitely like, there was so much less to choose from.
Yeah.
And so I guess that today, to play an RPG, to buy it, to spend however much that might be and play it is very like, there's so much more to choose from that I'm very, very, very picky, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I'm like, okay. So I think about basically like the games I haven't finished. And I find over time that I have less of them than I used to, because I'm realizing that I'm better at assessing games before I buy them.
Yes, for
sure.
So
much better. So
because you are pickier, and we have more resources. We have more video gameplay footage, Twitch, reviews. There's so much more media to consume. You have a whole community of, you have a whole subreddit that's like, yeah, we all agree this is great. And that's a strong signal, right?
Yep. That's what I think. So, but yeah, so then I was like, okay, so there's really not a lot of RPGs I can think of off the top of my head that I gave up. And the only one I could really think of, oh gosh, well, here goes the memory again. The games that use Ghibli art. That's that RPG series.
Oh, yeah. Jesus Christ.
Isn't it? I'm feeling like it's just me that's having like the slippery like mouth to brain connection, but then I'm like, oh, Matt has it too.
I'm looking at it in my mind, and good Lord.
So I guess we don't need to name it. I'm sure the listeners will be like, yeah, we know. But anyway, crushed.
Ni no Kuni.
Thank you. Crushed to find myself losing interest in Ni no Kuni like halfway through. So much so that when a sequel came out, I was like, this is gonna be better. And do you know I did the exact same thing? I played half the game and was like, I don't care. This is so sad.
Literally, you and me both. Identical stories, but in reverse order. Played the sequel because I never had PlayStation, so played the sequel on PC first, then and really enjoyed it. Gave up halfway through, and then played the original on Switch, which is a great port, by the way. And my daughter was so excited because we love Ghibli together, and she was watching me play the other Ni no Kuni, and so she was excited about and we loved this game together. And then we hit a battle it was the first challenging battle, and maybe I attempted it 2 or 3 times, and she was like, I don't want to. She said this. She's like, I was like, hey, you want to play Ni no Kuni? Maybe we can beat that guy again. She's like, I don't want to play this game, and you're just going to lose again. And I was like, you're right. And then we never saw it again.
Yeah.
Heartbreaking.
It's crushing. So that's the only like big property that I could think of that I was like, I just quit. It's not that I regret it. It's that I'm so sad I didn't want to keep playing.
Yes.
The most recent, shorter, I would say, indie game that I have quit and been like, why the fuck did you quit that game? has been Gris.
Oh.
Gris is a Colette ass game if there ever was one.
Okay.
And I know exactly what happened. I didn't quit because I didn't like it. I quit because I got distracted by something else, which is, particularly difficult for, me, because as a person with ADHD, I'm like, squirrel, and it's like, as soon as it's shiny and pretty, I'm distracted, So yeah, that's a rough thing. So like, right, at this second, I'm playing Resident Evil 4 in VR and really enjoying it. I just downloaded To the Rescue, which is another dog rescue game, which you and I talked about in the Discord.
Oh, yeah.
And then I'm still doing the Zelda replay on the Switch, and the Animal Crossing update just came out. So I like opened that and like updated everything. And I was like, I get too overwhelmed to try to manage 4 games at a time. That's
Agreed.
just too many,
Yes.
So it's so much. It's a lot.
Well, I'm glad you say that about managing, because I really try to keep a hand only that many games, but only if they occupy different spaces. So usually one is like, this is a casual, usually Switch kind of dip in and out kind of game. This might be, a game to play with the kids, or a family game that's fun on the TV. And then there's always the third slot, which is, this is my epic, grindy story, big PC game that I'm going to play for 400 hours.
Yep.
And I can't do 2 of those I cannot have 2 of those going at the same time. So I must categorize them and manage them, and complete or quit. Like I'm aiming to complete Metroid Dread so I can then shuffle it out of rotation and find the next, action game or something. And so to hear you say that is, and I wonder about other people too. If I'm sure there are people who just bounce in and out of 20 games, and some people who are like, no, I just play Call of Duty and that is all I do. It's my game. And I get that too, it's very interesting.
Yeah, no, I definitely, I agree. But so yeah, I wanted to like focus on what's my, what guilt, like what do I feel super guilty or super sad about quitting?
Yeah.
And I really want to get back to it. And the loudest game in my memory was, Gris. Go back and play that game. Like put your headphones on and like enjoy that beautiful music and just like really get into it.
If you go, it sounds like you plan to go back. Will you start over? Because it's a shorter game, and so maybe is it worth it to you to reinvest emotionally, or do you feel like, oh, let me just pick up this where I was so I can knock it out kind of thing?
Fun thing about that, because I have a very poor memory, I am unable to just pick it up. So what happens to me is if I've gone away from a game for a while, I have to restart the whole game. because I can't remember where I left off. Or like if I do remember, it's like, well, I'm not in the flow anymore. So like you know what? Shoot. I actually just realized I did finish Link's Awakening and I regretted that. And that was one of the reasons why I picked it back up during my New York vacation, like to and from on the plane.
Okay.
Yeah, because I was like, I never finished that. And I actually regret that because I know that it would be good all the way to the end. But I didn't lose interest. I got distracted. And that's one of the bigger reasons I don't finish games is that I just get so distracted so easily, you know?
Was Link's Awakening pick upable? Meaning, a Zelda game is like, okay, good.
Very pick upable. Like,
good.
Yeah. I mean, just like I was saying earlier, the core of it is that first Zelda game, if you think about it.
Yeah.
That it's the core. So,
but like, if you don't remember which dungeon you were going to next, and you don't remember exactly what this last item was used for, that I could see that tripping you up, especially in a very obtuse game like NES Legend of Zelda. I recall Link's Awakening being a little bit more guided, like there were like hint, like you could go to the hint guy, and he'd be like, "Hey, make sure you go here next," right?
Right. It's a freaking like tree with a phone on it, and you go in there, and for some reason, there's just a phone in a room that's carved in a tree, and it rings, and it's like, "Oh, hey, let me tell you," and I'm like, this is so amazingly unrealistic and also so cute. Like I'm so down with the
charming
literal the tree room for the phone.
The tree phone.
So yeah, it's so great. But anyway, so yeah, like, I thought, hey, I could sit here and just really stew on all the games I regret, like not finishing, or all the games I walked away from because I was so disappointed. But then I was like, I'm just going to keep it to a few because I don't want to talk all night and I want to hear yours.
I'm so glad you said Ni no Kuni because wow, you're making me want to return to it. And I wonder, being such a linear RPG, I bet it is returnable. We fell off right where I feel like the combat and the systems and the summoning of the I don't know what they were called, basically like little Pokemon characters. That seemed like, oh, this has got to open up and get more interesting. It's going to get more interesting probably in the next 2 hours. And then we just didn't quite get there. Regrets. Do finish Gris too.
I shall.
It is worth it. It is worth it for sure. Did you get it on Switch by any chance, or was it mobile? Yeah. It's good.
I should lay in bed and play it with headphones on and finish it that way. That's the way.
Yeah. Enjoy it. But when the time is right, like you said. I'll share a few that are just, I don't know, they feel tragic to me because, again, like just similar to yours, love these games. And I've said it before, Control.
Yeah.
I want to know what's up with the house, with the brother. I want to know. I would like to know where this story goes. And it was one of those that there was some sort of, I don't even think it was a boss. It was just an area that's like, fuck, I can't get through this combat area. I just can't, I cannot overcome it.
I was about to say, it wasn't the refrigerator, was it?
I don't recall that. So if that is
recall it.
If I would know it, then I have not reached that point yet. No.
You know what? If you choose to never go back, I want you to go to the internet.
Yeah, I think that's good advice.
I want you to go to YouTube, and I want you to type in Control Game Refrigerator. That's it. That's all I want.
I thought you were gonna say. I thought you were gonna say watch the cutscenes to the end to learn the ending. Okay. As
great as the ending is, like, just search those words.
Just the refrigerator?
That is because if you're not gonna play any more of the game, if you're like, you know what, I'm pieced out, you have to see that.
Yes.
Like I would recommend that as quality content to just about anybody.
So now I'm incredibly intrigued. My lingering question is, if I do that, will the story of the game be spoiled for me if I ever wanted to go back? Or okay.
No. Like, funny enough, this particular part of the game is technically, I mean, yeah, it's technically a part of the story, but like it wouldn't spoil anything or ruin anything. So it's just, there's no better word for it than it's an epic part of that game. And I would not want you to miss that, even if you never pick it up again.
All right. Homework assigned. I shall investigate. I love how cryptic and, you know, if you know Control, that could mean anything. Like, I don't know. I'm assuming it's an object of power.
Control, trust me, you know what refrigerator means. Okay. You're like, oh.
Yeah. Yeah. Jesus. Yeah, it's funny. I booted it up the other day because I wanted to kick the tires on this newish PC that I got over the summer. And I've been
was about to say, is it on PC? Did you do it on PC? Good.
Yeah. And I've always played it on PC, but I played it and it ran just fine, just fantastically great on my previous PC. And now I have a pretty hardcore PC. And I was like, I could probably turn ray tracing on Control. You know, Oh, you know what? I never got into this, but like I attempted to play Red Dead Redemption and it ran just fine, except the cutscenes, like something about it, they just looked shitty. And I was like, what the fuck is wrong with this? I don't understand. And I then started doing other things with the PC, but like, no, I can run Control with ray tracing on. Why the fuck does Red Dead Redemption look like shit during the cutscene? Like I had to know. I was compulsively being like, is something wrong with me, with my computer, or is it this game? And so I had to prove to myself. So I reinstalled Control to be like, this Control is like the poster child for like crank these settings up.
Damn.
Get all the physics, turn on ray tracing, 1440p, and if you can run that in 2021, you can basically do anything. And I could mostly do all of those things. And I was like, all right, fuck Red Dead. I can't, you know, I'm good here. I don't know. I was not even gonna talk about Red Dead, but it's not quite a regret. I feel angry about it because I really was saving time in my life and, you know, grabbed it on sale and, you know, spent some, you know, $40, $50 to get this game that like fucking, I looked at, I don't know why I was looking at this today. Top selling video games of all time. It's like it's in the top 10 of all time. With Tetris and Minecraft and Mario Kart, like it is up there, you know? And when we had the Lord, thy God, on this very program, God scoffed at me and said, wait, you never played Red Dead 2? What the hell's wrong with you? So I knew I had to, and I really like the setting, and I like I don't know anything about the characters, but I liked what I was seeing, and I liked the premise, and it's a beautiful game. And just like, you know what it was? You install the game from Steam, you buy it from Steam, and it's like, all right, here's the Rockstar launcher. Please create a Rockstar account now. And I'm like, no, I already have a Steam account. I've already paid money to buy this game on Steam. I don't need a fucking... Oh, and you need to be online, logged into Rockstar to run this game. And I was like, okay, this game better be fucking good. And then also what it fucking did, and this is a very technical, stupid thing, but I use Moonlight to stream my games to the TV. And there's a weird fucking thing where it will only choose the first monitor that your computer registers as the first monitor. And if it's not the monitor you're trying to stream, you got to go through a whole headache to reconfigure that in a very technical way. It's not a huge deal, but it's very frustrating if you don't know what's going on. And so that was all squared away. Something about the Rockstar launcher reordered my monitors. So I was like, all right, ready to play Red Dead 2, fired it up, wrong monitor is streaming. I'm like, what the fuck? This game is fucking with my computer registry. I gotta like go through all these hoops again, fixed it, set it up, played the game again. The game The gameplay ran beautifully. Cutscenes are like, what the fuck is wrong with this? And it was like, and then got to chapter 2 and it crashed. And I'm like, goodbye. I don't understand. I don't understand how a top-selling game from a AAA publisher that was a top-selling game on consoles, and they port it to PC, and I'm playing on, like, again, I'm not trying to be a dickhead. Like, I was forced into buying an off-the-shelf PC because my other PC died, and this is a premium PC for work and games.
Mm-hmm.
And if this PC cannot run Red Dead without crashing, who the fuck is playing Red Dead on PC? Like, I don't understand what's going wrong. And I just had to take the Docky advice and be like, I am not getting enjoyment out of this experience.
Yep.
I have to shut it off.
Yeah.
And now I will never get to play this game that, like, is a very important game that I really would like to fucking play.
Okay, but let's roll back to the wise Docky. Quitting is giving the gift of time to yourself. It's kind of true. If you're not having fun, regardless of, the esteem of the game or how famous it is or how many people like it, if you're not having fun, you're just giving the gift of time to yourself to just quit the game and say, you know what? Yeah. I don't have to force myself to enjoy this because the whole world enjoys it. Like, I can just choose not to enjoy it, I guess, and move on. A perfect example I feel like for me is like the Grand Theft Auto games. Remember, let's go back. I fucking hate cars. I don't want to drive. Right. Well, not IRL, but I don't want to drive a car in a game like ever. Yeah, the only time I was ever okay with driving a car in a game was Final Fantasy 15, and it was because I was playing a boy band. So that made it passable. And it wasn't that bad, honestly. It was very low key. But I'm a terrible driver in games, so I don't want to play them because I'm embarrassed.
Mario Kart, though, the only good driving game is, are you... Okay.
Yeah, definitely. No, it doesn't feel like driving, though. It just feels like having fun.
Correct. Perfectly said. Yes.
So maybe that's what it is. But
yep. I love that. I'm fully...
for a person who loves driving a real car, or maybe who loves, an automatic or whatever, like all those things, my husband loves cars. So like for him, like playing like a Forza or something is really fun because it's so realistic. But for me, I'm like, you're fucking lucky that I drive like, a Honda Fit around and like don't like crash into anybody. Like I need my cars to be as simple as possible because like I have no patience because I have ADHD, and also like I don't want a car with like 50 million things that it does. I understand that a lot of people do. Anyway, long story short, fuck driving in games.
Fuck driving in real life and in games, except Mario Kart. I could not agree with you more.
Except Mario Kart, which is great. So
yeah.
But I love that general feeling though of like, you don't have to finish a game. You don't have to guilt yourself because the game cost a lot. Like, oh, I should be enjoying this. And also, for any listener that might happen to not know, which I'm sure all of you do, but just in case you don't, if you purchase games on Steam and you have this feeling of regret, you don't have to keep it because, as I recently learned probably about 3 or 4 months ago, you can return a game on Steam as long as you have like played less than a certain number of hours, usually, I think.
Yeah.
And like, it blew my mind. Like when I learned
God bless
this.
them. Good on Valve because Nintendo doesn't do it. I think it's just so pro consumer, and it's just about trust and loyalty. It's why I continue to just consolidate my gaming life in Steam. And it's never good to lock it all into one place, but like Steam has never done me wrong. From on a consumer level, I feel like I understand what the products are. There's a review system that's very transparent. There's a return policy that's very clear. And 9 times out of 10, the games work. They download, they work, they update. It's great. 2 hours, I think, is the threshold, which sadly, between tinkering with settings and playing the first chapter, I well exceeded the 2-hour return policy, even though the fucking game crashes and breaks. And so I don't know. That's an interesting discussion. Is in a 60-hour open world game, is 2 hours not enough to truly assess if the game is, good or technically passable? That's an interesting discussion for another time, perhaps.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, maybe the takeaway in the end is, play the games, enjoy the games. Of course, you'll be disappointed if you wanted a game to be something and it turns out to be something else. But on the whole, we might laugh about being overwhelmed, or, we have so many games that we quit them all halfway because there's too many games. But like, also, as a gamer, how nice is it to just have this overwhelming bounty of games that we even have the problem? Like, if you had told me as a 9 or 10-year-old child that like there would one day be so many games that I would struggle to choose, like I would have been overwhelmed with delight to even imagine that something like that could happen in my lifetime. Like for me, it was like you found one game you liked and it was like this, bastion of, like safety that you like went and enjoyed, and like you weren't like, oh, I gotta choose between this and this, like, so it's kind of cool in a way, like to be like, wow, there's so many games in the world of so many different varieties that I struggle to figure out what to stick with.
Yep, you are absolutely right, and we need to remind ourselves of the bounty every now and then, because it feels, it can sometimes feel overwhelmed. The infinite choice can be, can induce anxiety. It can be stressful, which is this unintended side effect of look at all this great stuff. We weren't wired for this. Human beings were not meant to have all this stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Evolutionarily, I mean.
Yeah. Yes, I do agree. What will we ever do with all this bounty, this digital bounty?
This digital bounty. Very briefly, I'll touch on two more where there's not a ton to say, but this one is, if I made a list of like top 5, maybe top 10 personal favorite games of all time. This is going to be on it, and I've said it before, and it's one of the rare games I've gone back to play. It is Darkest Dungeon, the original.
Oh, yes.
The sequel has come out in early access, and I'm keeping a close eye on it. But original Darkest Dungeon is so extraordinary. I love it to death. Played it on PC and did not finish it because what happens in that game is that you get death is permanent. You get attached to certain characters, and more importantly, you get attached to certain strategies. So certain characters will synergize with others, especially in their placement. And there's also a meta sort of rhythm of like, all right, when this team is resting and recuperating, I got this team coming in and their strategy is this. And then A squad comes back in to do this dungeon, and there's sort of a give and take there. And what happens with permadeath RPG tactical games is like, shit, the one character who's the linchpin of this squad is dead. And now I did not diversify into any other strategies. And if I want to rebuild this squad, I got to train up this other character from scratch, which is going to take me 30 more hours. So I guess I'm done here, you know? And also combined with Darkest Dungeon has this ridiculous difficulty spike, sort of late game difficulty spike that is a challenge and is fun and exciting, and there's cool stuff happening there. But if you make that misstep and then you got to rebuild from scratch amid the horrors of this difficulty spike, and that trashed me, and I did not come back, and then got it again on Switch because like, oh yeah, I could grind this game on Switch in bed, and did, and fell into the same exact trap. And honestly, I hope this will not dissuade anyone from trying Darkest Dungeon, because it's so great. And the antidote to this, which I should have done, is a mode that the developers added called Radiant Mode, which I believe shortens the it shortens the grind. I don't know exactly how they do it, but it's probably like, hey, you did one run instead of 1 experience point, you're getting 3 experience points, and it just accelerates it probably accelerates the growth of your characters and the progression of the narrative, so that instead of being a 60-hour experience, maybe it's condensed into a 30-hour or 40-hour. And maybe if I had done Radiant mode, those spikes and those pitfalls would not have been so devastating. So I do, if you're not in it for the long haul, but you want to try Darkest Dungeon, I do recommend Radiant mode to get in there. And I don't know, maybe one day I'll go in a third time, but I don't know if I have it in me, or maybe I'll wait for the sequel.
You never know. I mean, well, it's slightly different, but I did play Unpacking twice, completely beginning to end. And like, I finished it, and then fairly soon after, the next day, I started the new game. So I mean, hey, when the game hits right, sometimes it's worth going back. God, I can't even tell you how many times I went back to Diablo 2.
Ooh, yeah, right.
Like for a decade, basically.
All right, but briefly on that, what are you getting out of Unpacking in the second go around? Is it just getting the fix, or are you appreciating or seeing things in the game that you did not see on the first try?
I'm definitely seeing, it's both. I'm definitely seeing things in the game that I did not see on the first try, but sometimes I've noticed, this is not to be like an insult to myself, but sometimes I've noticed that I can be a little slow in the uptake to certain things. And so I'm so glad I played it a second time, because the first time around I missed something really obvious. Not a placement, but like a small, the storytelling of the game is very subtle. But like, I played it the first time, and I don't know why a certain part didn't hit me quite this way. I can't say too much because I don't want to ruin anything for anybody.
For sure.
But playing it the second time was like, oh, of course. Oh, and it was like, I'm so glad I played this again. So that hit, because I don't know. It's just a part of the story that when I misunderstood what was happening in that particular level that I was unpacking, it made the game more resonant because I understood it better the second time. I don't think it's really a bad on the designers, though. I think it's honestly on me.
Totally.
Because sometimes I have a funny way of processing things. But yeah, so really glad I played it a second time.
I love that. I'm so happy to hear that. Everyone misses stuff. And maybe it's not one-to-one, and maybe knowing what you are saying, oh, I totally missed that. But also, when the ending of a movie and then you watch it the second time and you see Marty McFly hand a newspaper with a date on it, you're like, whoa, that's what that means, because now I have knowledge that I did not have on the first. Your brain is not looking for that on the first watch or the first play.
Sure.
But now that your brain is much more heightened to those subtle artistic details that make a game or a piece of media like legendary or rewatchable, replayable in a way that other experiences are just like, oh, that was fun, like that's done,
right? Yeah, it's I think there are certain experiences that rather than just like, oh, let's go back and collect 800 I don't know, turtles or something, like you might go back and it might hit different, as we say, right? Like, okay, just a quick for instance, the first time I played Journey, I finished it, walked into the ending, the light at the top of the mountain, and just put down my controller and just cried my eyes out. It was just so emotional for me, and I felt so many alignments between what I had just played and like real life, right? And the things I believe happen to us as humans throughout the cycles of our lives. So I was going to play it again. I knew that for sure because it was so powerful for me. And when I played it again later, I played it differently. And if you've ever played Journey, you have two options of how you can play it. You can play the entire thing solo, and you can never kind of pair up with somebody, but there is a way to like play it with someone else where like you kind of, I think there's a button you hit where you're kind of like connecting up with someone, or no, actually it's not the button. It's just the choice to kind of hang with someone. So it's even more organic than that.
Yeah.
And I am so grateful that I finished the game a second time and I walked into the light at the top of the mountain with someone versus alone. It was extremely emotionally like meaningful for me. For a million reasons that I'm sure other people that played the game can probably hear and feel. But like, there are games, right? That like, there's something more that you might get playing it again. Just the same way you might watch a movie, multiple times in your life and it means different things at different times. So, I like that games are a medium, just like any other, an art medium that's an option, like sometimes something might be worth playing 2, 3, 4 times. Who knows?
This is this is probably a topic for another time as well, but I'm really compelled by that, by Journey specifically, because I'm thinking about what if you played Journey again 20 years from now, 50 years from now. Are the servers still on? Is there a way to experience that game in the way that you did? You can play Journey a lot of different ways, but like the point of Journey is to cross paths with a stranger and have some sort of experience with them. And if that mechanism is no longer accessible,
I disagree. That's not the only way you can go through the game. Like,
for sure,
there are people around you all the time, but it's always up to you whether or not you want to hang around somebody or use the little chat function, which is only like a series of chirps. It doesn't have any English or words or anything. But like, you're right in that if those servers are offline in 10 years and no one's playing Journey because it's not popular anymore,
that's what I mean. Yeah.
You won't have that experience. Yes. And that would be,
you won't have that option, which means that having that choice is a pivotal part of the meaning of that game. And if that portion is off or unavailable, or even if the servers are on and like you said, no one is around, I don't know. That's really interesting. It's really compelling.
Yeah, you're right.
It has interesting ramifications for game preservation, experience, archiving that experience or making that accessible. Interesting.
Yeah, lots to think about, indeed.
One more here. It's just the dumbest throwaway that I could think of, but I've talked about it. I love Subnautica. Finished the original Subnautica. Very excited for Subnautica Below Zero. Played quite a bit of it, and my computer died in the middle of that playthrough. No big deal. I'll just fire it up and play it again on my new computer. Oh, wait. They did not implement cloud saves. The only fucking game I've ever experienced, and they talked about it publicly. I don't know what the heck happened. There was some blog post where it's like, oh, it's too much work to put cloud saves in, or it's not working. I don't remember it. They might have been on Epic Store for a while and in early access, and then finally came to Steam, and there was some incompatibility, and they were like, nah, we're not doing it. We're just not putting that work in. And so my playthrough of Below Zero is gone forever.
Oh my God.
And I was like,
that is sad.
I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that again. Maybe if it was the first game and it was still that sort of new experience that I had to see through to the end, I'd probably go back. But yeah, just a funny 2021 thing of like, oh, of course my save will be. Every save is there. Nintendo, Steam, we're all good here, right? Nope, not this game. The only game. Fuck you. Good luck to you.
Yeah, that sucks.
Funny. It's all right.
Sucks.
A
giant cat has appeared on my lap and he's purring very loud. So I don't know if that is audible on the mic, but he's like, hey, you know what? You're done.
You're done. That is.
And I'm like, am I? He's like, yeah. I need you to stop
get out of here
now and love me.
Feed me something and love me. Yeah. Well, perfect.
Yeah.
That is the perfect segue to say thank you to everyone listening, and especially to those who answered the call. Come on into the Discord, because that is where the conversation is happening. We love to ask you about, I mean, half this show is about games that you did not finish and how they relate to our experiences. I like seeing titles of games that I've never played, or games that like I have loved and played 1,000 million hours of, and then I ask you, hey, what's up with Skyrim? And you're like, nope. And then we get to talk about it. And I do love that. So thank you to all the folks who chime in and make the show better.
What a freaking awesome community.
Couldn't ask for anything better. Thank you for hanging with us. Thank you for chatting with us. You can email us if you're too shy to come into the Discord community. Have entered the chat at gmail.com. Our theme music is by Azure Flux, and our logo is illustrated by Just Call Me Katarina. We publish this show weekly, and if you like it, give it a rating or review on your favorite podcast app, because that helps other people find the show. Tell a friend. Tell all your friends. Tell both of your friends, all two of them, about this show. If they like video games, come on in to the community. Any final thoughts?
I think I'm going to play Gris this weekend. Yeah.
Oh, all right.
Going to do it.
We will find out how you enjoyed the ending of Gris next week when we talk at you then.
All right.
See you later.
Bye.
Bye.